Maya Chen pressed her face against the cold window of Research Station Amber 7 and watched the twin suns set over the purple hills of Kepler 442b. A world so far from Earth that she sometimes forgot what real grass looked like, not the tough violet stalks that grew in the valleys below. The station was quiet now, too quiet, and had been for 2 years since the accident that took her parents from her, leaving only their life's work and a small creature that chirped softly from his enclosure behind her. She turned to look at Brick, the honey badger her mother had grown from a frozen embryo brought from Earth in the genetic repository, one of 300 species her parents had saved from a dying homeworld. Brick was not like the Hollows showed animals to be, all calm and peaceful and gentle. He was compact muscle and attitude, with silver-gray fur on his back and black fur on his belly, and small dark eyes that always seemed to be planning something. "Again?" Maya asked, walking to the food storage. Brick made a huffing sound that meant yes. She was 8 years old, but had learned to take care of herself and the badger, and Doc, the old maintenance android that kept the station running, but was losing memory cores one by one, forgetting more each day. The station had been built for 20 researchers, but now held only a girl and her strange companion and a failing machine. Maya's parents had been xenobiologists, scientists who studied alien life, but their real passion was Earth life, the creatures that evolved in a world of competition and survival and endless struggle. Earth made the toughest animals in the galaxy, her father used to say, because Earth never let anything survive easy. Brick ate his meal of synthesized meat and vegetables while Maya checked the security feeds, a habit Doc had taught her after her parents died. "Always know what's around you," the android would say in its deteriorating voice. "Always watch." The feeds showed nothing but empty corridors and the dark landscape outside, where strange plants swayed in the wind and small native creatures hopped between rocks. Maya was about to turn away when something appeared on the outer perimeter camera. A ship. Not human design, all sharp angles and dark metal and glowing green lights. Her heart began to pound. "Doc," she called. The android shuffled into the control room, moving slower than it used to. "Yes, Maya?" "There's a ship, not ours." Doc's optical sensors focused on the screen, and something in its programming made it go very still. "Vrin Confederacy vessel, patrol class, recording for identification." "What do they want?" "Vrin are expanding their territory. They have been at war with 3 other species in the past decade. They are not known for peaceful contact." The ship landed 2 kilometers from the station, close enough to be a threat, but far enough to scan first. Maya watched as a loading ramp extended and figures emerged, tall and insect-like, with 4 arms and legs that bent backward, and heads that were all mandibles and compound eyes. "How many?" she whispered. 10 soldiers, armed with energy weapons and scanning equipment. They are moving toward the station." Brick had finished eating and came to stand beside Maya, sensing her fear, his body tensing the way it did before he attacked the training drones her father had built. "What do I do, Doc?" The android was silent for a long moment, its processors struggling with damaged memory cores. "Hide. Take Brick to the biolab. It has the strongest doors. I will attempt to communicate with them. What if they don't want to communicate? Then you stay hidden, no matter what happens." Maya grabbed Brick and ran through the corridors she knew so well, past her parents' old quarters that she couldn't bear to enter, past the common room where they used to eat together, down to the biolab where 300 species waited in frozen sleep. The room was large and cold, and filled with cylindrical tanks that glowed with soft blue light, each one containing genetic material from Earth, bears and wolves and elephants and sharks and eagles, all the creatures her parents had tried to save. Maya locked the door and pulled up the security feeds on the lab terminal. She watched Doc approach the station entrance and open it, the android's body language attempting to appear non-threatening. The Vrin soldiers entered without hesitation, their weapons raised. One of them spoke in a clicking, chittering language that the station's computer translated into text on Maya's screen. Biological signatures detected. Eliminate all non-Vrin life. This location is now property of the Confederacy. Wait, Doc said in Vrin, downloaded from its translation files. This is a research station. There are no military assets. There is only one human child. The lead Vrin, taller than the others with more elaborate armor, made a dismissive gesture with two of its arms. Human expansion threatens Vrin territory. All human settlements must be cleared. You have 10 seconds to reveal the child's location. Doc stood in front of the corridor that led to the biolab. I cannot comply with that request. The Vrin leader shot Doc without another word, the energy blast tearing through the android's chest and sending it crashing to the floor. Maya bit her hand to keep from screaming. The soldiers moved past Doc's sparking body and began searching the station, using handheld scanners that beeped and hummed. They were efficient and thorough, checking every room, every closet, every possible hiding place. Maya could hear them getting closer, their clicking communication growing louder. Brick was pacing now, his body low to the ground, growl building in his throat that she had only heard once before, when a native predator had attacked the station's outer wall. "Shh," she whispered, but Brick would not be calmed. The scanner beeps were right outside the biolab door now. One of the Vrin said something that translated as, "Two life forms detected. Behind this barrier, breach it." Maya looked down at Brick and saw something in his eyes that reminded her of what her father had said about Earth animals, about how they survived in a world that tried to kill them every single day. The door began to glow red as the Vrin cut through it with their weapons. She knelt down and put her hands on both sides of Brick's head, the way her mother had taught her, looking into his dark eyes. "Protect me," she whispered, and then softer, almost like a prayer, to whatever gods watched over lost children and loyal animals. "Go." The door fell inward with a crash of metal on metal. The Vrin soldiers poured through the opening, weapons raised, mandibles clicking in what might have been satisfaction. They saw Maya first, a small human child in the back of the room, alone and helpless. Then they saw the honey badger. Brick launched himself at the nearest soldier before any of them could react, 30 pounds of rage and teeth and claws, moving faster than something his size should be able to move. The Vrin's compound eyes had time to register surprise before Brick's jaws closed on its throat, right where the chitinous armor plates met. The alien made a sound like breaking glass and fell. The other 9 soldiers began to fire. The energy bolts filled the biolab with green light and burning ozone, but Brick was no longer where they aimed. He was already under the second soldier, his claws raking across the soft joints, where the alien's legs connected to its body. The Vrin fell, and Brick was on its face, biting through compound eyes that shattered like glass marbles, thick fluid spraying across the floor. Maya watched from behind a genetic storage tank, and could not look away, even though her mind screamed at her to hide, to close her eyes, to be anywhere but here, watching her only friend become something terrifying. The third soldier managed to hit Brick with a glancing shot that burned through fur and skin, leaving a black smoking line across the badger's shoulder, but Brick did not slow down. That was the thing about honey badgers that her mother had tried to explain, the thing that made them legendary, even on Earth, where everything was dangerous. They did not know how to stop. They did not understand surrender or retreat or fear the way other animals did. Pain just made them angrier. Brick hit the third soldier low and fast, going for the leg joints again, and when the alien fell, he went for its throat, his teeth designed by millions of years of evolution to crush bone and tear through hide thick enough to stop thorns and stings. The Vrin's exoskeleton was impressive, strong enough to stop most blades and disperse energy weapon hits, but it was not designed for the kind of attack that came from Earth's predators. It was not designed for crushing bite force and ripping claws, and a creature that absolutely refused to die. The fourth and fifth soldiers tried to coordinate their fire, one shooting while the other moved, but Brick was too low to the ground and too fast. He went under a desk, and came up behind them, launching himself at the back of the fourth soldier's leg, his teeth finding the soft joint, and tearing. The alien went down screaming in its clicking language, and Brick was already on the fifth, climbing up its back like he used to climb the trees in the station's greenhouse, finding the neck, always the neck. The sixth soldier got smart, and tried to use its weapon as a club, swinging it at Brick instead of shooting, but the badger ducked under the swing and bit down on the alien's arm, his jaws locking with pressure that made bones crack, even through armor. The Vrin dropped its weapon and tried to shake Brick off, but honey badgers had jaws that locked like steel traps. Once they bit down, they did not let go until they chose to. The seventh soldier shot its comrade trying to hit Brick, the energy bolt punching through chitin and killing its own teammate. Brick let go and moved again. The eighth and ninth soldiers were backing toward the door now, their weapons firing wildly, hitting walls and tanks and each other, but never the small gray and black shape that moved like liquid death between them. One of them made it to the door and ran. The other was not fast enough. The 10th soldier, larger than the others, with different armor markings that suggested rank, stood its ground and fired methodically, each shot placed where Brick had been a moment before. This one had combat experience, Maya could tell. It was not panicking like the others. It was learning Brick's patterns. The next shot caught Brick in the side, a direct hit that burned deep, and the badger finally made a sound that was not a growl, but a cry of real pain. Maya moved without thinking, grabbing a metal rod from a broken equipment rack, running toward the soldier. "No!" she screamed, and the Vrin's compound eyes swiveled toward her, mandibles clicking in what might have been confusion or amusement. It raised its weapon toward the human child. Brick, burned and bleeding and barely able to stand, threw himself at them. Soldier's weapon arm, his teeth clamping down on the wrist joint, his weight dragging the arm down just as it fired. The shot went into the floor instead of into Maya. The soldier tried to shake Brick off, but the badger held on, snarling and thrashing, and Maya swung the metal rod with all her strength at the Vrin's knee joint. The alien's leg buckled, and it fell. Brick let go of the arm and went for the throat. It was over in seconds. The biolab was silent, except for Maya's sobbing breaths and Brick's pained wheezing. 9 Vrin soldiers lay dead or dying on the floor. The 10th had escaped. Maya dropped the rod and ran to Brick, falling to her knees beside him. His fur was burned in 2 places, one on his shoulder and one on his side, the smell of cooked flesh making her stomach turn. His breathing was labored, and blood matted his fur. "No, no, no," she whispered, her hands hovering over him, afraid to touch and cause more pain. "Please don't die. Please. You're all I have left." Brick's eyes found hers, and he made a soft chirping sound, the one he made when he wanted her to scratch behind his ears. She did, very gently, tears running down her face. "Good boy," she said. "Good, brave boy, you saved me." Maya forced herself to think, to remember what her mother had taught her about animal medicine. The station had veterinary supplies in the medical bay. She ran, leaving Brick in the biolab, her feet slipping in alien blood. The medical bay was untouched, and she grabbed everything she could carry: bandages, antiseptic, pain medication, tissue regeneration gel her parents had modified for Earth animals. When she got back, Brick had not moved, but his eyes were still open, still watching the door. She cleaned the wounds as gently as she could, while Brick made small sounds of discomfort, but did not try to bite her, trusting her completely, even through the tissue regeneration gel was old but still good, glowing faintly as she spread it over the burns. Within minutes, the wounds began to close, the gel knitting flesh together, with tiny machines too small to see. "You're going to be okay," she told herself. "You have to be okay." While she worked, her mind was racing. The soldier that escaped would report back to its ship. More would come. Maybe many more. She looked around the biolab at the 300 tanks, each one holding a frozen embryo from Earth. Her parents had spent their lives collecting these, saving them, protecting them. They had shown her how the growth acceleration worked, how embryos could be matured to adulthood in days instead of months or years, a technology developed to restore Earth's dying biosphere. She had never used it before. Her mother had warned her it was dangerous, that animals grown too fast could have problems, unstable. But Maya looked at Brick, burned and exhausted, but still trying to stand, still trying to protect her. She thought about the Vryn soldier that escaped, about the ship 2 kilometers away, about how alone she was. Then she looked at the tanks and made a decision. She pulled up the lab's control interface and began selecting species, her hands shaking. Her mother's notes were still in the system, detailed instructions on which animals were most aggressive, most territorial, most dangerous. Wolverines, smaller than Brick but meaner, with claws that could shred metal. Cassowaries, flightless birds with dagger claws that had killed humans on Earth. Cape buffalo, her father had called them Black Death and said they were one of Africa's most dangerous animals. She started the growth acceleration sequence on 4 embryos. The tanks began to hum and glow brighter, the fluid inside swirling as the machines worked. Hours, the computer said in its flat voice, until maturity. Maya sat down beside Brick and stroked his fur. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry I have to ask more from you, from them, but I don't know what else to do." Brick leaned against her and closed his eyes, finally allowing himself to rest. Outside, through the broken door, Maya could hear the sound of engines. The Vryn were coming back. 2 Vryn dropships descended through the purple sky, their engines howling like wounded animals as they settled near the station. Close enough that Maya could see soldiers pouring out of the loading ramps, maybe 20 of them, all armed and armored, and moving with purpose. She watched from the biolab security feed and tried to count them, but her hands were shaking too much. Brick was sleeping now, his breathing steadier, the tissue regeneration gel doing its work, but he needed time to heal, time they did not have. Behind her the growth tanks hummed and bubbled, 3 Wolverines and 1 cassowary developing at impossible speed, bones forming and organs growing and instincts writing themselves into new brains. 18 hours, the computer had said. It had been only 2. Maya pulled up Doc's last transmission logs before the android died, searching for anything useful, any weakness in Vryn tactics or biology. What she found made her breath catch in her throat. Doc had been analyzing the dead soldiers, scanning their bodies and armor, and the results were strange. The Vryn exoskeleton was incredibly strong against energy weapons and cutting attacks, designed to disperse heat and deflect blades. But the stress analysis showed weakness to blunt force trauma and crushing pressure. Their homeworld was low gravity, which meant they evolved lighter and more fragile bones than Earth creatures. Their armor compensated, but only for the kind of attacks they expected from other Vryn. Not for the kind of attacks that came from animals that evolved in Earth's crushing gravity and brutal competition. Doc's notes said, Vryn biology is optimized for efficiency and energy weapon combat. They have never encountered mammals or persistence predators. Their concept of dangerous fauna is limited to hive insects and parasites. Recommend. The log ended there, cut off when Doc died. On the biolab floor, at the way Brick's teeth had punched through their armor at the joints, at the crushed thorax plates where jaws had closed with Earth gravity strength. They don't know, she whispered to herself. They don't know what Earth animals can do. Outside, the Vryn were setting up a perimeter with drones and scanning equipment, moving slowly and carefully now that they knew something dangerous was inside. Their leader, taller than the others, with elaborate armor markings and a scanning device built into one arm, was gesturing and clicking commands. Maya wished she could hear what they were saying, but the exterior audio feeds were damaged from the fighting. She needed more time. The growth tanks said 16 hours remaining. She could not give them 16 hours to prepare. Maya checked the station's defensive systems, what little her parents had installed. Automated doors, emergency bulkheads, environmental controls. And her eyes stopped on one option. The environmental system could be set to vent atmosphere from specific sections, or it could be set to pump in gases. The station had a large supply of nitrogen for fire suppression and carbon dioxide for the greenhouse. If she vented the oxygen from the outer corridors and replaced it with nitrogen, any Vrin that entered without breathing equipment would pass out in minutes. It was not much, but it might slow them down. She activated the protocol and watched the environmental system begin its work. On the security feed, the Vrin leader's scanning device must have detected the atmospheric change, because it stopped and clicked urgently to its soldiers. They retreated to their ships. "Come on," Maya urged. "Give up. Go away. Tell your commanders this place is not worth it." But instead, the Vrin soldiers returned, wearing enclosed helmets with breathing apparatus. 30 minutes. The leader was smarter than she hoped. Maya checked on Brick, who was awake now and watching the door, with eyes that held a strange light, something between exhaustion and anticipation. "Can you fight again?" she asked quietly. Brick stood, slowly, testing his legs. The tissue gel had healed the burns to pink new skin, but he was still weak. He chirped softly, not the aggressive sound from before, but something gentler, and Maya realized he was trying to reassure her. "I know," she said, scratching his ears. "I know you'll try." The growth tanks were showing progress, shapes moving in the fluid, small bodies growing larger by the minute. 15 hours remaining. The Vrin were at the station entrance now, moving in formation, weapons ready. They were not making the same mistakes as the first group. Maya sealed every door between them and the biolab, creating a maze they would have to cut through, buying more time. She pulled up her parents' research files again, reading frantically about the animals growing in the tanks. Wolverines were solitary and aggressive, territorial hunters that could take down prey much larger than themselves, with jaws strong enough to crush frozen caribou bones. The cassowary was a flightless bird that could run at 50 kilometers per hour, and had a claw on each foot that could disembowel a human with one kick. Her father's notes said, "Cassowaries are responsible for multiple human deaths in Earth's history, extremely territorial, attack without provocation when defending nests, treat with extreme caution." These were not pets. These were not companions like Brick had become. These were weapons that happened to be alive. The thought made Maya feel sick, but she pushed the feeling down. The Vrin were through the first door, cutting it with focused energy beams, moving forward. Understand what she was creating. Her mother's notes on wolverines. Gulo Gulo, pound for pound one of Earth's most ferocious predators. Documented cases of single wolverines driving bears from kills. Fearless to the point of stupidity. Never give up once committed to a fight. Maya looked at Brick and saw the same description. Maybe that was why her mother had chosen to bring a honey badger embryo to the stars. Maybe she knew that if humans ever needed protecting on alien worlds, Earth's most stubborn creatures would be the best guardians. The Vrin were through 3 doors now, moving faster, adapting their tactics. Their leader was coordinating the cutting, having soldiers work in rotation so their weapons did not overheat. Smart. Too smart. Maya checked the growth tanks again. 14 hours. She could not wait 14 hours. The Vrin would be here in 20 minutes at their current pace. Maya made another decision, one she knew was dangerous. She overrode the growth sequence safety limits and doubled the acceleration rate. The computer immediately flashed warnings. Extreme growth rate may cause developmental abnormalities, aggressive behavior patterns, shortened lifespan, recommend. She closed the warnings. The tanks began to glow brighter, the fluid churning violently. Shapes inside growing visibly now. 7 hours remaining. The animals would be mature in 7 hours. The Vryn would be here in 15 minutes. Maya had to slow them down more. She remembered the genetic repository held 300 species. Not all of them were fully grown, but some could be brought to partial maturity quickly. Small animals, insects, spiders, scorpions. Her father had frozen samples of bullet ants from South America, insects whose sting was supposed to feel like being shot. He had samples of Sydney funnel-web spiders, whose venom could kill a human in minutes. Her mother had preserved box jellyfish genetics, one of Earth's most venomous creatures. Maya started growth acceleration on 30 insect and arachnid embryos, setting them for rapid partial development. 2 hours, until they would be active. She would release them into the ventilation system. Let the Vryn learn what it meant to invade a place that held Earth's evolution in storage. The biolab door shuddered as energy weapons hit it from the other side. The Vryn were here. Maya picked up Brick and backed away from the door, moving behind the largest growth tanks. "One more time," she whispered to him. "Just hold them off one more time, please." Brick's muscles tensed under her hands. The door began to glow red. Maya looked at the growth tanks with the wolverines and cassowary, watching them grow, willing them to develop faster. 6 hours and 50 minutes remaining. Inward. Pen Vryn soldiers entered, weapons raised, and this time their leader came with them, scanning device active, compound eyes taking in the room. They saw Maya first, then they saw Brick. The leader clicked something, and all 10 soldiers fired at once. But Maya had learned too. She hit the emergency release on the nearest growth tank, and 2,000 liters of nutrient fluid exploded outward, flooding the floor, absorbing the energy bolts in flashes of steam. In the chaos, Brick attacked. Brick hit the nearest Vryn in the flood of nutrient fluid, using the slippery floor to slide under its legs, his teeth finding the ankle joint, and crushing through armor weakened by the sudden temperature change. The soldier fell, and Brick was already moving, but he was slower now, still injured, still tired. 2 more soldiers fired, and 1 bolt caught him in the leg. Brick went down hard. Maya screamed and threw herself forward, sliding through the fluid, grabbing Brick and pulling him behind a storage container. The Vryn leader clicked an order, and the soldiers stopped firing, instead forming a semicircle around Maya's position. She was trapped. The leader approached slowly, mandibles moving in what might have been speech, and its translator device crackled to life, speaking human standard. "Human child, your animal has killed 13 of my soldiers. This aggression will not be tolerated. Surrender now, and death will be quick." Brick close, feeling his heart racing against her chest, feeling the new burn on his leg. "You came to kill me," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Brick was just protecting me." "Irrelevant," the leader said. "You are in Vryn territory now. All human settlements will be eliminated. Your species is too aggressive, too expansionist. You threaten the Confederacy's borders." "We're not aggressive," Maya said, and she knew it was true. Her parents had been scientists, peaceful people who just wanted to study and protect life. You're the ones who came with weapons. The leader's compound eyes reflected the light from the growth tanks. Your parents brought weapons from Earth. I see them in these containers. Creatures bred for violence. This confirms human intentions. They weren't weapons, Maya said, feeling tears on her face. They were just animals. My parents wanted to save them because Earth was dying. They wanted to give them a chance to survive. Somewhere else. Survival, the leader said, is achieved through strength. Your animals are strong, too strong. This makes them dangerous. This makes you dangerous. Behind the leader, Maya could see the growth tanks still glowing, still working. 5 hours remaining. She needed to keep the Vryn talking. If we're so dangerous, she said, why do you need 10 soldiers and 2 ships to deal with 1 child? The leader's mandibles clicked in what might have been anger. 9 soldiers now, thanks to your animal, and more are coming. A full battalion will arrive in 4 hours. They will sterilize this entire region. 4 hours. Maya felt her heart sink. Even if the wolverines and cassowary finished growing, even if they fought as hard as brick, a battalion meant hundreds of soldiers. She could not win. Let me show you something, she said, surprising herself with the words. The leader tilted its head, mandibles still. Me what? Why my parents brought earth animals here? Why they're not weapons? She stood slowly, still holding brick, and walked to one of the undamaged growth tanks. The Vryn soldiers tracked her with their weapons but did not fire. Inside the tank, a small shape was visible, something furry and round. This is a giant panda, Maya said, reading the label. My father said they were almost extinct on Earth. They eat bamboo and sleep most of the day, and are terrible at reproducing. They're completely useless as weapons. But my parents saved them anyway, because they believed all life was worth protecting. The leader moved closer, scanning device active. This creature has no natural defenses, no venom, no speed, no armor. Why preserve it? Because it doesn't need a reason to exist, Maya said. Because it's alive, and that's enough. The leader was silent for a moment, processing this. Vryn do not understand this concept. Serve a purpose is inefficient. It consumes resources without benefit. Maybe that's why you'll never understand humans, Maya said quietly. The leader's translator made a sound like a sigh. Perhaps, but it does not matter. Understanding is not required for elimination. Step away from the containers. Surrender the animal. Accept your fate. Maya looked down at Brick, who was watching the Vryn with eyes that still held fight despite his injuries. She thought about her parents, about the 2 years alone, about Doc sparking and dying in the corridor, about the 300 species in frozen sleep around her. She thought about Earth, a world she barely remembered, where animals evolved in constant struggle, and humans learned to live alongside them instead of dominating them. No, she said. The leader raised its weapon. Then you will... A loud crack interrupted it. One of the accelerated growth tanks shattered, fluid spilling out. Something moved in the waterfall. The first wolverine staggered out, fully grown but early, pulled from acceleration by Maya's override protocol. It was smaller than a human, but dense with muscle, with claws like curved knives, and a face that was all snarl. It saw the Vryn and attacked immediately. No hesitation, no fear, pure Earth predator instinct. The nearest soldier fired, but the wolverine was already moving, faster than something that size should move, going low under the energy bolt, and leaping at the alien's face. Its claws found the breathing apparatus and tore it away. The Vryn began to choke in the nitrogen-enriched air. 2 more tanks cracked. 2 more wolverines emerged. The Vryn leader shouted orders, and soldiers began firing. But the wolverines were like brick. They did not know how to quit. They took hits and kept coming. One wolverine got its jaws around a soldier's leg and crushed the joint completely. Limb hanging useless. Another climbed up a soldier's back and bit through the breathing tube. The biolab became chaos again. Maya grabbed Brick and ran for the door while the Vryn were distracted. Behind her, the cassowary tank exploded and something huge stepped out. A bird taller than a human, with powerful legs and a head crowned with a horn-like casque. It made a booming sound and kicked the nearest Vryn with claws designed to disembowel predators. The alien's armor held, but barely, the force of the kick sending it crashing into a wall. Maya reached the corridor and kept running, Brick in her arms, heading for the ventilation control room, where the insect embryos should be ready. Behind her, she heard the Vryn leader shouting, heard weapons firing, heard the sounds of Earth animals doing what they did best, fighting to survive. The ventilation room was small and cramped, and filled with humming machines. Incubation chamber she had started 2 hours ago. Inside were 30 small containers, each one holding spiders or scorpions or ants, all grown to adulthood through acceleration. Her hands shook as she opened the containers. Bullet ants swarmed out first, each one as long as her thumb. Funnel-web spiders followed, moving fast on hairy legs. Desert scorpions with stingers full of venom. She had no way to control them, no way to direct them, but she did not need to. The ventilation system would carry them throughout the station. The Vryn were already inside. Maya activated the fans and watched the insects disappear into the vents. Then she heard footsteps in the corridor, heavy footsteps. The Vryn leader appeared in the doorway, its armor scorched and damaged, one arm hanging limp, but still holding its weapon. "Clever," it said to its translator, "using Earth's smallest creatures as weapons, but it will not save you. My soldiers are eliminating your animals now, and the battalion will arrive in 3 hours." Maya backed against the wall, holding Brick. The leader raised its weapon. "You could have surrendered, could have died quickly, but you chose to fight, chose to make this difficult. That was a mistake." "Maybe," Maya said, "but it's what humans do. We fight for the things we love, even when we can't win." "Love," the leader said, and its mandibles moved in what might have been confusion. "You fight for emotion, not for territory or resources or survival." "Love is survival," Maya said, "at least for us." The leader aimed carefully, then die for it. But before it could fire, something happened. The leader twitched, then jerked, its weapon dropping from its hand. A bullet ant was on its neck, where the armor did not quite meet the helmet seal. Another appeared on its arm. The leader tried to brush them away, but more came, pouring from a vent above its head. It began to shake, the venom overwhelming its nervous system. Its translator crackled. "Impossible. Insects cannot, should not." Then it fell. Maya watched the Vryn leader collapse, twitching and clicking, brought down not by teeth or claws, but by creatures so small they could fit on a fingernail. Brick chirped softly. "I know," Maya whispered. "Earth doesn't play fair." She stepped over the fallen leader and walked back toward the biolab. Throughout the station, she could hear the sounds of Vryn soldiers screaming as they discovered what Earth's evolution had created in the shadows and corners of the world. 3 hours until the battalion arrived. But Maya Chen was not done fighting yet. Maya spent the next 2 hours working faster than she ever had in her life, her small hands moving between growth tanks and control panels, activating embryos her parents had marked as dangerous, as aggressive, as last resort specimens. Cape buffalo that her father called Black Death, wild boars with tusks that could gore through armor, a young saltwater crocodile that even in juvenile form was pure predatory efficiency, Komodo dragons with bacteria-filled mouths that made every bite infectious. She did not have time to grow them fully, did not have time to do this safely. She set all accelerators to maximum and hoped. The station was a war zone now. Vryn soldiers fighting wolverines in the corridors, trying to avoid insects that dropped from vents, their formation broken and their morale shattered. Maya had watched 3 soldiers run back to their ships, abandoning their posts, clicking in panic about demon creatures and impossible organisms. But the battalion was coming. The leader had said so before the bullet ants took it down. Maya checked the security feeds and saw what remained of the Vryn forces. 7 soldiers gathered in the station's main bay, weapons facing all directions, breathing hard, their armor damaged and their movements jerky with fear. The 3 wolverines were still alive, prowling the outer corridors, one injured but still moving. The cassowary had been hit multiple times but was still on its feet. That bird's stubbornness that Maya's father had written about. Brick was with her, resting on a medical table, his newest wound treated with the last of the tissue gel. He was exhausted, burned in 3 places now, limping and wheezing, but when Maya looked at him, his tail moved slightly, trying to wag despite the pain. "You've done enough," she told him. "You've saved me so many times, you can rest now." Brick made a sound that meant he disagreed. Outside, through the station windows, Maya saw lights in the sky. The battalion. Dozens of ships descending through the purple atmosphere, engines screaming. She was out of time. The growth tanks around her held animals that were 80% developed, close enough to maturity that they could move and fight, but not strong enough to survive long. It did not matter. She opened every tank. Water and nutrient fluid flooded the biolab as 30 creatures stumbled out, blinking and confused and angry at being born into consciousness through accelerated development. Cape buffalo calves, already massive, already aggressive. Wild boars with tusks half-grown but sharp enough. A crocodile that thrashed and hissed. 2 Komodo dragons that moved with reptilian patience. Maya used the pheromone training system her mother had installed, the one designed to help animals bond with human handlers. But she cranked it to maximum, flooding the room with chemical signals that screamed, "Protect the human, defend the territory, attack threats." It was crude, and it was dangerous, and the animals might turn on her when the pheromones faded. But she needed them now. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the confused creatures. "I'm sorry I have to ask this from you. You just got born, and I'm already sending you to fight, but I don't know what else to do." The buffalo calf nearest to her made a sound between a grunt and a moo, its eyes focusing on her, the pheromones working. One by one the animals oriented on Maya, imprinting on her as the thing to protect. She picked up Brick and walked to the biolab door, opening it to the corridor. "Go," she said softly. The animals moved. The buffalo went first, their hooves thundering on metal floors, their heads lowered. The boars followed, squealing in rage at everything. The crocodile moved slower, but with terrible purpose. The Komodo dragons split up, heading in different directions, following heat signatures. Maya watched them disappear into the station, and felt like she was watching children go to war. The Vryn battalion was landing now, ships touching down in a coordinated pattern around the station, surrounding it completely. Maya counted 40 ships, maybe 400 soldiers. She could not win. But maybe she could make them afraid. Maybe she could make them think twice before attacking another human settlement. Maybe she could buy time for someone to notice what was happening here and send help. She went to the communications room, stepping over the body of the Vryn leader, now completely still, its body covered in ant bites. The communication equipment was old but functional. Maya sent out a distress signal on all human frequencies, adding a data burst with everything: security footage, biological scans, her parents' research, the genetic repository contents. Then she sent the same message to the Vryn command frequencies, making sure they saw what had happened to their soldiers. Let them see what Earth animals could do. Let them wonder what else humanity had brought to the stars. The response came almost immediately, not from humans but from Vryn command, their signal translating through the station's systems. "Human child, this is Hive Commander Zalmor of the Confederacy 5th Fleet. You are surrounded. Your resistance is futile. We have 400 soldiers prepared to eliminate all hostile organisms. Surrender immediately." Maya picked up the communicator, her voice small but clear. "This is Maya Chen of Research Station Amber 7. You attacked us first. My animals are only defending their home. Leave now, and no more of your soldiers have to die." There was a long pause. Then, "Unacceptable. Your creatures have killed 37 Vryn soldiers, including Hive Captain Rixtal. This is an act of war. We will sterilize the entire region. Then you'll learn what Earth really means." Maya said, and she believed it. We don't just have honey badgers and wolverines and cassowaries, we have 300 species here, and every single one evolved to survive on a world that tried to kill them every day. Your soldiers have met maybe 10 of them. Do you want to meet the rest? Another pause, longer this time. When the Vryn commander spoke again, its tone had changed, less certain. You are bluffing. No species preserves dangerous organisms without military purpose. You admit these are weapons. Maya said, They're not weapons, thinking of Brick, of how he chirped when she scratched his ears, of how he had protected her not because he was programmed to, but because he loved her. They're family, and you threatened them. The communicator went silent. Maya watched the security feeds and saw Vryn soldiers exiting their ships, forming up in disciplined ranks, weapons ready. This was it. She had played all her cards. The growth tanks were empty. The animals were scattered through the station. Brick could barely stand. She was an 8-year-old girl with no weapons and no plan and no hope. Then something changed. One of the Vryn ships was not deploying soldiers. Instead it was rising, engines glowing, leaving the surface. Another ship followed, then 3 more. Maya watched in confusion as nearly a quarter of the battalion began retreating, their ships climbing back into orbit. The commander's voice crackled. What have you done, human child? My soldiers are reporting. They refuse to enter the station. They say their scans show creatures that should not exist. Organisms with bite force exceeding combat mechs. Venom concentrations impossible for natural evolution. Speed and aggression parameters outside known biological limits. Maya felt something that might have been hope. Those are just Earth animals. That's what we are. That's what we bring with us wherever we go. This is impossible, the commander said, but its voice held something new. Something that might have been fear. Our xenobiologists said Earth creatures were within standard parameters, dangerous but manageable, comparable to fauna from other high-gravity worlds. Your xenobiologists were wrong, Maya said. Earth didn't just make dangerous animals. It made animals that refuse to give up, that fight even when they're hurt, that protect their families even when they're outnumbered. We didn't domesticate them by breaking them. We befriended them by respecting what they are. More ships were leaving now, the Vryn formation breaking apart. The commander made a clicking sound that the translator rendered as a sigh. I am calling off the assault, but understand this. The Confederacy will quarantine this sector. No Vryn will approach human settlements that harbor Earth organisms. You have won this battle through terror, not honor. I don't care about honor, Maya said. I just want to be left alone. The last Vryn ships lifted off, leaving behind their dead, leaving behind their equipment, fleeing from a child and her animals. Maya Chen sat down in the communications room and finally let herself cry, holding Brick close while he chirped softly and licked her tears. 3 weeks later, a human naval vessel called the UNSS Perseverance arrived in orbit, responding to Maya's distress signal. Captain Amara Okonkwo personally led the landing party and found Maya living in the restored greenhouse, surrounded by animals that should not have been possible. Brick, healing slowly but surviving. 3 wolverines that followed Maya like protective shadows. A cassowary that nested near the greenhouse entrance. Buffalo and boars and a crocodile in the station's water recycling area. And in the biolab, 270 embryos still waiting in frozen sleep. Captain Okonkwo watched the security footage in silence. Her command crew gathered around her, their faces showing everything from disbelief to pride. This child held off a Vryn battalion, the tactical officer said quietly, with animals and insects, and no military training. Not just held them off, the science officer added, made them retreat, made them afraid. The Vryn are calling this sector the dead zone now. They won't come within 10 light-years of any human settlement. Captain Okonkwo turned to Maya, who was sitting with Brick in her lap, scratching behind his ears while he made contented sounds. You understand what you've done here? The captain asked gently. Maya nodded. I survived. I protected my family. You did more than that, Okonkwo said. You've changed everything. The entire galaxy is going to know this story. A human child and Earth animals defeating an alien military force. Do you know what that means? Maya shook her head. It means every species out there is going to reconsider what humans are capable of, Okonkwo said. It means they're going to look at us differently. Not because of our weapons or our ships, but because of what we bring with us. Because of our bond with creatures they can't understand. The science officer pulled up a galactic news feed. The story was everywhere. Videos of Brick fighting Vryn soldiers, analysis of honey badger biology and behavior, comparisons between Earth's evolution and other worlds, speculation about what other animals humans might have preserved. An alien journalist from the peaceful Trell Collective had written, Humanity domesticated the wolf, the horse, the cow, the chicken. They befriended apex predators and made them companions. What kind of species looks at a creature designed to kill and decides to make it family? Another article, from a Vryn scientist seeking asylum in human space. We were wrong about humans. They are not soft bodies, they are not weak. They are survivors who learned to thrive on a world that was actively hostile to complex life. And they did not do it alone. They brought allies, partners, friends who fight beside them. This is not weakness. This is terrifying. Maya read the articles and felt strange. She had not meant to change anything. She had just wanted to survive. She had just wanted to protect Brick. What happens now? She asked. Captain Okonkwo smiled. Now you choose. You can come with us. Live on a proper colony world. Go to school with other children, or you can stay here. We'll assign a garrison to protect the station. Help you restore it. Continue your parents' work. Maya looked around at the greenhouse, at the purple hills outside, at Brick sleeping in her lap, at the 3 wolverines watching from the corner. I want to stay, she said. This is home. They're my family. My parents' work isn't finished. Okonkwo nodded. Then we'll make sure you have everything you need. Personnel, supplies, security. And Maya? Thank you. For what? For reminding us what makes us human, the captain said. It's not that we're smarter or stronger or more advanced. It's that we look at a honey badger, one of Earth's most fearless predators, and we don't see a weapon. We see a friend. 6 months later, Research Station Amber 7 was thriving. Maya Chen, now 9 years old, ran through the expanded facility, with Brick at her heels, both of them healthy and happy. The station had a full staff now. Xenobiologists and veterinarians and security personnel, all working to preserve Earth's genetic legacy. The 300 embryos were safe and carefully monitored. Maya gave tours to visiting dignitaries from other species, showing them Earth animals with pride. This is Brick, she would say, and the aliens would stare at the honey badger with something between respect and terror. He saved my life, not because I commanded him to, but because he wanted to. Galactic Assembly. When species debated human expansion and human intentions, someone would invariably mention the Battle of Amber 7. The story of a child who whispered "Go" and changed the course of history. The story of humanity's strangest gift, the ability to turn nature's weapons into friends. The story that made the galaxy understand what Earth had created. Not just one species that learned to survive, but a whole world of allies who would fight beside them. Because when you threaten a human, you don't just threaten them. You threaten every creature they've ever shown kindness to. And Earth remembers everything about survival.